Good evening. Welcome to the City of Pasco Council meeting for March 2nd, 2026. The council thanks you for being a part of your city government. At meetings, the council takes formal action on items, holds public hearings, and conducts other business of the city. Agenda packets are available on the City of Pasco's website at www.pasco-gov/agenda. This meeting is also being televised live on PSC-TV, channel 191 on Spectrum Cable in Pasco and Richland, and is streamed on the city's Facebook page, website, YouTube channel, and Microsoft Teams webinar. This and previous council meeting video is available on the city's website. Lastly, the public may submit their comments and or questions by contacting the city manager, city clerk, or by using the Ask Pasco app. I will get that right. Thank you. Madam Clerk, if you would take the roll, please.
Okay, Cotta,
Here.
Figueroa,
Present.
Hernandez,
Present.
Perales,
Here.
Campos.
If he's
Okay,
not online,
he may join us later. He was going to try to come online.
If not.
Milne
I am present.
and Grimm.
Here, thank you.
Okay, we have 6 currently present.
Okay, if everyone would please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, rolling right along. We are on number 4 already. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by the roll call vote as one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If further discussion is desired by council members, the item may be removed from the consent agenda to the regular agenda and considered separately. Item A, approval of meeting minutes for February 9th and February 17th. B, bills and communications approving claims in the total amount of $10,964,318.55. C, resolution number 4708, City of Pasco Comprehensive Safety Action Plan adoption. Would anybody like to remove, just for the sake of the audience, there's already been a couple items removed from the consent agenda and placed lower. Would anybody else like to move anything else? Seeing none, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
We have a motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Milne to approve the consent agenda as read. It is seconded by Councilmember Perales. Madam Clerk, if we could do a roll call.
Figueroa,
Aye.
Hernandez,
Aye.
Perales,
Aye.
Cotta,
Yes.
Milne,
Yes.
Grimm.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Very good. We are going to move on to 5A, proclamations and acknowledgements for National Reading Month. Ms. Pashon.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So National Reading Month is this month, March, and it aligns with Dr. Seuss's birthday. And tonight there's a proclamation in front of you to be presented to the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, who have requested this proclamation.
Thank you. And I would like to come down there and present it. And Mr. Figueroa, if you have that much passion and energy, I would like you to please join me down there, sir.
All right. Been waiting for this moment.
Are there any members from the Daughters of the American Revolution who would like to join us up here? Thank you. We'll read this to you and then we'll take a picture with the rest of council also. It is my pleasure. Whereas reading is a foundational skill that allows individuals to explore worlds beyond their own, expand their imagination, and develop critical thinking skills necessary for success in life, and whereas March is designated as National Reading Month to motivate Americans of all ages to read every day in honor of the birthday of the beloved children's author, Dr. Seuss. And whereas research has shown that literacy skills begin to develop at birth and that reading regularly is linked to positive mental health, cognitive development, and lifelong learning, and whereas cultivating a love for reading prepares young minds for academic success, improves vocabulary, and fosters empathy and creativity, and whereas the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, Kennewick chapter, is committed to fostering a community of readers and encouraging families to read together daily, and now, therefore, I, Charles Grimm, Mayor of the City of Pasco, Washington, do hereby proclaim March 2026 as National Reading Month in the City of Pasco and urge all residents to celebrate this month by reading, visiting local libraries, and encouraging children to discover the joy of books. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you. Here's this, and if you guys want to come in front of the rest of council, we'd love to. You guys want to come down? Yeah, why don't you guys come down and love to join me for a picture?
This is a great month.
You guys, yeah, is this good? Yeah, you just cram in the middle there. Yeah. Cram and cozy.
We try to look natural.
You guys good?
Thank you.
Thank you again.
So much.
Appreciate it. You guys are doing good work. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yes, read to your children and encourage them to read. It is a great thing. Moving on to number 6, public comments. The public may address council on any items unless it relates to a scheduled public hearing. This item is provided to allow the opportunity to bring items to the attention of city council or to express an opinion on an issue. Its purpose is not to provide a venue for debate or for the posing of questions with the expectation of an immediate response. Some questions require consideration by council over time and after a deliberative process with input from a number of different sources. Some questions are best directed to staff members who have access to specific information. Citizen comments will normally be limited to 3 minutes each. Those with lengthy messages are invited to summarize their comments and or submit written information for consideration by the council outside of formal meetings. Lastly, when called upon, please state your name and city or county residency into the microphone before providing your comments. Thank you, and with that said, we will now open public comments. Thank you, sir. If you would just press the button for the red microphone there and just state your name and city or county of residence, please. Oh, on the microphone itself, sir. Or kind of at the base of it there. Yes, sir.
Hi there, my name is Sean Flanagan, Benton County, Washington. I'd like to kind of just paint a picture first. You wake up in the middle of the night, not to the smell or the heat, but to the sound of a fire so loud it's roaring through your house. You turn over to your husband, you wake him up, tell him to grab his glasses and to rush out the door. You only have so much time that you grab your phone and the clothes that you're wearing. You reach the door of the house where you're met with the flames, and that's where you find the heat. You get to the stairs, you have to buckle yourself into a chair, and as you're descending down and you reach the bottom, you get stuck. You can't unbuckle yourself. Your husband has to turn around, help you out. As you're being carried out the door, the fire of the house meets you. While you're there, you'll sustain injuries, and when you turn around, or you'll sustain injuries from the burns, you'll find yourself getting out of the door, and then when you turn around and you see your home, this is what you find. The house that you spent the last 25 years in, completely being burned to the ground. And when the ambulance gets there, you'll be flown to Harbor View in Seattle, where you'll spend months in recovery. You'll have injuries, and the doctor will tell you that you likely won't survive. That is the story of a client who reached out to me, and I'm a contractor, and she had her house burned from a targeted arson attack, and she wants to add a security perimeter around her house. They've rebuilt over the last 2 years, and she continues to live in fear of, I don't know, retaliation. She doesn't feel safe, and so she wants to add a fence, and she likes the fence to be as close to the street as possible off of her property. And so what we need is permission of a right of encroachment permit to put the fence, because the city has an easement 7 feet onto her property. And as I went to the engineering department, or the planning department here, they pretty much just told me that there is no exceptions to the right of encroachment. That it's just something that they don't allow. And what I'm trying to do is get, an extra hand.
Can you wrap up, Mr.
Yeah,
Flanagan?
I'm trying to get an extra hand. I'm looking for somebody here to talk to somebody in the planning department to allow me to get that permit to put the fence. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, if you can, maybe just send a new email to staff, and maybe they can copy a couple of us in so we can track it or whatever. And,
Yeah,
just
and I
see where that
apologize. I
goes.
did try to send an email. I just didn't have the right ones.
Okay, that's okay. Yep.
Okay.
We'd love to follow up. Thank you,
Where
sir.
can I get that email?
Oh, just to the staff. Yep, Miss Miller's got a card for you. Sorry, Miss Matson. I only knew you as Miss Miller for a couple months, but it's stuck. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time, Mr. Flanagan. Anybody else for public comment? Step right on up. Thank you, Miss Mahoney.
Is on?
Yes, ma'am.
Mary Mahoney, Pasco resident. Regarding the Pasco Aquatic Center, Attorney Lee Kerr and proxies and Director Matt Watkins will serve as the operating partners for at least 3 years. With a pie chart, show the total tax dollars to be paid for Director Watkins' salary, travel expenses, see his passport. Then show the total tax dollars to be paid to Attorney Lee Kerr and proxies for the next 3 years and/or into perpetuity. Then show the total tax dollars to be paid for the Aquatic Center. Phase 1 is over $40 million. No total has ever been given. Then show the total tax dollars paid for the East Pasco Memorial Pool cover for under $2 million. Then show the total tax dollars spent for Pasco's water, sewers, MLK Center, libraries, homeless shelters, schools, spay-neuter clinic. Then show the repayment of the missing and/or stolen $545,000 in will donation by our veteran, Mr. Ashby. Then show the repayment of $300,000 of that donation siphoned off by Animal Control Julie Chambers. Then show the repayment of the missing and/or stolen rainy day fund with Animal Control rehire Angela Zeiler. Then show the total money made by Animal Control TCAS with the usage pay system. See the AG file on 9/29/23 with 48 counts of animal cruelty, the ongoing cruel, botched, and falsely certified euthanasia methods now used at Animal Control TCAS. Provide a permit for Animal Control TCAS to operate as an animal research provider to WSU. Show the money paid from WSU for our animals. See the WSU Ziegler files. Provide a notice to Pasco City Attorney Lee Kerr from the Washington State Bar for his oath violations regarding his ongoing authorization of no due process at Animal Control TCAS. Provide a floodplain permit number 404 and Floodplain Clean Water Act reports and fines paid by Pasco and Hayden Homes for killing our 8 floodplain American bald eagles with eaglets and our floodplain Canadian geese. Also see Ike Meyer Roundy for Pasco's playbook regarding indentured servitude for homeowners. Provide ULID LID designs for my property with start dates, costs, notice, harassment, and retaliation against me and my property. All requests are for the record via RCW 42.56 with notice to Pasco.
Thank you, Ms. Mahoney. Anybody else for public comment? Let's step right on up, ma'am. Just name and city or county for the record, please.
Okay. Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Maria Rengel, and I live here in Pasco, and I'm a business person in downtown. And well, I'm here I have my paper so I don't forget and try to mix up my words in English because English is my second language, so I gotta read a little bit just to make sure. And so I'm here just to clarify the positive update mentioned on the meeting on February 2nd of this year. I'm going to mention regarding the LVA helping to find a tenant for the location where the Havana Cafe was. When Havana Cafe closed his doors, I take over. I had my business there until the 1st of January. So I want to clarify that it's been past a little bit more than 4 years. So I'm the owner of the previous business in the same location, and the name was Mexa Restaurant. So I closed my doors on January of 2026, reminding good terms of agreements with the property owner, leaving all my equipment valuated in $50K in favor for releasing my reminding contract. The part that sounds crooked to me when I hear the meeting is about the Jamaican person signing a lease on the same property, which I myself spoke with him by messages and in person as well, because I tried to negotiate my lease and my equipment to transfer and sell to get some profit. Looking for or trying to get someone to get a business or get this opportunity. The time we spoke was in November, in the middle of November 2025, and no one else was involved in our conversations with him and I, and just him and I, and he wasn't a serious person with me. He was just wasting my time, making me believe he was interesting. The point of my conversation is to clarify no one has signed as today's a lease with the building, and it's still available. And it seems like the Jamaican guy that I talked to in person and through messages, he was just a promise ghost. And without being said, now I want to say and thank you to the program that you guys have for supporting Nacho to cleaning Pasco downtown. That's a great a service that you guys provide for us, and it helps a lot to keep the downtown clean, and we love it. It helps a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your investment in Pasco, and thanks for the positive feedback. It's always great to know when we get it right too. So really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Anybody else for public comment? Anybody online this evening, Ms. Bichon? Nope. One more time for public comment. Going once, going twice. With no one going forward, we will move on and close public comments. Number 7, reports from committees and or officers. What's everybody been doing this week? Councilmember Perales.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll go ahead and start it off. Yeah, last week was another productive week. Many of us attended the Swag Coffee grand opening right there on 20th. That was great. A lot of people showed up. It was amazing. Also, we just want to talk about downtown. I noticed that the close and sale of the 224 West Lewis Street property happened about a week ago, and looks like a business in downtown is going to be expanding their operation in there. So that's great to kind of see businesses being repurposed, and we see a lot of vacant property down there not being used, and so I was glad to see that. Also attended the strategic visioning workshop with the Latin Business Association. Mike Gonzalez, he's the new executive director, talked about downtown, talked about the downtown master plan. We're going into initial talks about bringing back the Pasco Business Advisory Council, which was very, very active a couple years ago. We had a lot of our meetings over at DMS Construction's office right there in the port, and so we're talking about bringing that back, and so we can just talk about the downtown and also perhaps the shoreline. Also had a great phone call with Roman Torres, with the Roman Torres Foundation, and staff has set up a meeting to talk with them about perhaps selecting City of Pasco for a soccer academy site. So pretty active week. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Councilman Cotta.
Yeah, we just, Charles and Leo and myself were part of the interview process, interviewing candidates for the Housing Authority Board position, which it looks like we're going to talk about a little bit later tonight. But enjoyed speaking with the candidates, and it was a good set of interviews.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Figueroa.
Yeah, so just to kind of share a little bit more about the week, and I saw some of you at different events. So I had the opportunity to attend the HOPWA Advisory Committee meeting alongside Councilmember Perales and City Manager Mr. Stewart. And it was my first one, so I was just kind of listening and trying to figure out what had been done before and everything else. It was good to kind of hear the report of kind of the vision of what's going to happen at the HOPWA Center and different things, and getting some good numbers going off of that. Furthermore, I was able to go to the Visit Tri-Cities board meeting. That was my first one as well. So I was able to get acquainted with a lot of the board members there and kind of hearing a lot of the projects that are going on in our region, and just introducing myself and kind of the work that we're trying to do. And also that same time, the Tri-Cities Regional Chamber of Commerce luncheon, and just kind of hearing kind of the statewide vision for 2040. I know it's kind of like seems kind of distant, but it's one of those things that, you know, when we're doing local government, you want to start thinking ahead. So that was pretty exciting to kind of hear. And also attended the fire department meeting that we had, and it was just really beneficial just hearing all the work that our fire department does. And Chief Crowley and Deputy Chiefs Tim and Chris were just phenomenal with their insight of what they provided and what they do. So that was really good. And then for the last piece, I will bring my hat back on because on Friday, I had the opportunity to go to Emerson Elementary and read to dual language classrooms. So I was able to read in English and Spanish some of Dr. Seuss classics. And so that was exciting for me because we were just kickstarting National Reading Month, and it just so happened that we did this proclamation. And Dr. Seuss is one of my favorite authors, and it kind of just started the passion for me to read. And so one of the things that I left those students with was to never stop reading. Because, you know, that's the imagination, and you get transported to different worlds that perhaps you might not get to see or visit, but you get to learn a lot from other people. So it was just exciting, and I did buy this hat off of them at Emerson, supporting them out there. But, you know, as a proud byproduct of Pasco School Districts, that's one of the things that I enjoy, just going into the classrooms and giving back, and just kind of hearing those kids ask questions, and got to share a little bit about city government and the city of Pasco. So that was a little bit about my week. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I probably had my busiest week I've had since being on council. Some of the highlights, not only the time I spent with you gentlemen around, but 8 a.m. Wednesday morning, I met with the other 3 mayors of the Quad Cities, and it was our first meeting. Our plan is to meet every month throughout the year as much as we can make it happen, just to really see what we can collaborate for the good of the region. And unfortunately, this LRA housing kind of stole the show this time, and those are all over the news right now, the less restrictive alternative housing, where really the state is putting some violent sex predators into our neighborhoods. And yes, we have registered sex offenders all around us. I mean, you can go online and find those maps, but these are being put into a specific house. They're being clustered together, often without supervision. And in my mind, it's just another way the state is really just imposing an unfunded mandate on us as municipalities to kind of watch out for some of the most dangerous among us. And I know, especially over in Benton County, I know especially in Kennewick, Mayor McShane has really been thrust to the forefront of this because they kind of just woke up one day and found one in their community off of Edison Street near 8th Avenue. And he's had to learn a whole lot. Some of the stuff he's had to learn, I know he doesn't even want to put in his brain to think about. He's trying to pour over numbers and data and the legality of all this. But a topic like that, it's hard to dig deep into and not, cover the topic a little bit too, and kind of feel bad for him in doing that. But I really appreciate his leadership and kind of taking the lead on it. But as much as we as a council, I think are strongly opposed to this from what I can tell, and other city councils around the region and our county commissions, it's going to take us all. It is going to take every one of us, not just the elected officials, but it's going to take the citizens to show up. Whether it be a rally or whether it be marching on Olympia or filling a stadium, we're working on having more answers than asking questions. We're looking at having paths forward and solutions that people can get behind, but everybody's got to show up. You know, we can't do what we do come election time and 35% of us show up. If we really want to keep these out of our community, it's going to take every one of us. So I encourage you, if anything, to get involved. And so after that, we went to the Franklin County Commissioner meeting where 3 of us spoke. Even the Connell mayor was there, and just kind of all trying to show support and kind of come to a consensus of what we are going to do about that. And we had an hour-long presentation in front of the county commissioners. And then from there, I was invited to go to that same Tri-City chamber luncheon, but I was told it was at the Hapo Center, and I have proof of that too. But I show up to the Hapo Center, and suddenly there's 50 Pasco police officers there and Pasco Fire, and they were just doing some training and some other talking at a first responder lunch. So I quickly got out my phone and said, "This is really fruitious. You know, you've actually sent me to the right place, and please excuse me if I stay here. These are my people here." So really kind of enjoyed the fellowship I had with them, and then yes, joined Councilmember Campos and Figueroa at the fire department at 4:00 that day, and that was just Wednesday, you guys. It was a busy week, I tell you. And then of course, yes, with Councilmember Perales and lots of city staff and others at Swag Coffee Bar, and that is good coffee, you guys. I just drink Americanos, which is, you know, straight up, you know if it's good or not, and that was good coffee, I'll tell you what. Then we had I met the city manager at noon for Hayden Homes. We did a ribbon cutting, or not a ribbon cutting, but a breaking ground ceremony for more homes. I mean, we are going to start continuing to encroach on that agricultural land up there, and I know there's kind of mixed feelings about it, but the state mandates we're going to grow, and so we are headed that direction. And so I guess in closing, I want to say this is almost more for miscellaneous council discussion, but in my, I just want to give a shout out while everybody's still here. In my non-official capacity, I had to do a horrible thing last night. I had to walked over to my neighbors, and I saw kind of some commotion over there, for lack of a better phrase, and he was putting a horse down. And it's really, really kind of a sad thing to put a big creature down. And, you know, I was kind of taken off guard by it, and I know that you know, it's a horse the neighborhood's loved and the neighborhood's fed, and you know, that's just a really serious thing, and felt of course bad for my neighbor having to put him down and everything. And lo and behold, I look up, and there is our deputy chief cook there in Carhartts and flannels, and I was probably right next to him for 5 minutes before I even recognized who he was. He was really incognito, and the more I've been around him, just the heart of gold he has, the heart to serve that he has, and he was just there with his wife, just showing love and compassion, and just they didn't have to be there, but they wanted to be there, just in a way to serve our community outside of his regular dress blues. So Chief, I really appreciate it. It was really good to see you there, and thank you for your service in so many ways to the community. So thank you, everybody. It was a busy week, and I think some of those updates are worth hearing. Let's move on, though. Number 8, hearings and council action or ordinances and resolutions relating thereto, none listed. Number 9, ordinances and resolutions not related to hearings. A, ordinance number 4818, the Emergency Comprehensive Plan Amendment, School District Capital Facilities Plan Update, and this is Ms. Matson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good
Good
evening,
evening.
Council. I would like to request that we move item A after item B, just because there's 2 comprehensive plan amendment applications for discussion tonight, and if one of them gets delayed, that will delay the other one. They're tied together into the same comprehensive plan amendment application. So I think if we talked about the low density residential application first, and we get direction from council to delay it for whatever reason, then that will save us some time and not having to go back and approve the capital facilities plan.
Perfect. Thank you,
okay.
Ms. Matson. Just do it by the book. Could I get a motion to amend the agenda, please? Putting letter B of number 9 before letter A, switching their spots.
I make a motion to move agenda item A after B.
Thank you. Of number 9, motion on the floor by Councilmember Perales to swap letter A and letter B of number 9.
And I'll second that.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Milne. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. We will move on to letter B, ordinance numbers 4819 and 4820, emergency low-density residential land use comprehensive plan amendment and RS20 rezone. Back to you, Ms. Mattson.
Thank you, Mayor, for adjusting the agenda there. So this is an emergency comprehensive plan amendment brought to the council tonight for consideration. We did workshop this item, so I won't go into as much detail. This item relates to, and here's the schedule and how we've gotten to this point in approval criteria. So this has gone to the Planning Commission, and the proposal in front of you is to change the comprehensive plan designation for the property shown on the screen here. And this designation follows the RS20 zone currently. So the proposal is threefold. The first is to modify the land use designation from 3 to 6 units per acre to 2 to 5 units per acre. That would be the land use comprehensive plan designation, and it would apply to those properties shown in light yellow. The second change would be to rezone the properties to R15, and it's probably easier to see the properties on this slide where the arrows are pointing to the light yellow. But the rezone would be from RS20, which currently allows for 2 units per acre, to R15, which allows for 2 to 3 units per acre. And the purpose of this change, and the third change, is the associated text amendments that go with this. So there's 3 actions before council tonight, and there's 2 motions associated with the 3 actions. And the R15 zone, like I said, allows for 2 to 3 units per acre, and the main purpose of this change, how it originated, was the RS20 zone was in conflict with the land use designation. So the RS20 zone previously said, or currently says, you can get 2 lots per acre, and citywide the land use designation was 3 to 6 units per acre. So there was a conflict and we needed to fix it. So that was the purpose of this change, and that is why we brought it forward to council. So that is the action before council tonight for consideration. I did want to mention, since we do summarize public comments that we received at the public hearing, that we did receive additional comments this week for 2 properties that are located outside of the RS20 zone, and they have requested to be included in this zone change. So I did prepare some slides to show you those properties if council is interested in looking at those. If we did go that route, we would need to delay the decision tonight with another public hearing, and I haven't had a chance to really iron out if that means going back to Planning Commission for a public hearing or if we can do it at the council level. I will certainly vet that out with legal immediately after this meeting, not tonight, but tomorrow or sometime this week if we receive that direction. So there'd be a little bit of delay on both of these items tonight if that's the direction you'd like to go. So with that, I'll turn it over to, and then the other topic in this area that I think has come up a few times for the RS20 zone and Riverview altogether is infrastructure, sidewalks, lighting. We do have that planned for a discussion with council on April 13th. So we can talk about it tonight. I would just recommend that maybe we treat that as a related topic. If we were to try and fold it into this rezone somehow, that would certainly delay this longer for the people who have been waiting for over a year now to do development. So we do have that scheduled for April. I'm happy to hear input tonight, but if you'd like to get into the weeds, April 13th would be the best meeting to talk about that topic in staff's opinion. So I'll pause there and let you answer questions, and happy to field them.
Go ahead.
I'd rather have the council have a presentation and more information about curbs and gutters, sidewalks, rather than just do it tonight willy-nilly. So I'd be in favor of just waiting until April 18th, but then just focusing on this for tonight.
And that's probably where I would be at too, Ms. Mattson. I know we were also contacted by a couple of the developers here who are here in the audience too, and just trying to look for, I guess, a way to get to yes, or some kind of middle ground where we can, I guess, kind of achieve council's goals at the same time, but continue to, develop as the state mandates too. So that would
Sure.
be great if you would be so kind.
Okay, so I can show you the 2 properties if you'd like, and
Yes,
just move
please.
straight to that. We'll see how the slides turned out. I did these like 5 minutes before the meeting. So this is the overall zoning map, and the square is the next slide. I'm just zooming in here to show you the area. And this shows that mustard yellow, it's all yellow, I know, but there's like a dark yellow color. That is the R15 zone, so that's down in the Riverview area, in and around the donut holes. And then the subject property sites are down in this area. So if I zoom in, those two properties with the stars, the first property with the star on the top is zoned currently for R1 right now. That's a pretty dense zoning, and this was at request of the property owner. It was just zoned recently, a couple of years ago. I believe it was RS12 before. And then the property to the south, it's not that entire property that the star's on, I believe. I think it's a smaller property. That is RS12 currently, and both of those properties with the stars are requesting to be included in the RS20 zone. It's not like the most seamless transition between the zones. Usually from a land use planning standpoint, you would like the zones to be pretty consistent. But if you look at the donut hole above, that light gray, that likely will come in as R15. So then it would really complete these two sites and not be too much of a satellite lot that's created. And then further, the RS12 zone is becoming a lot more similar to R15 just based on lot sizes. So from a technical standpoint, I don't have an issue with it. When we went through this process, we never planned on including RS12 or R1 lots into the proposal. But looking at these two lots, staff doesn't have any issue including it. What we would need to do is likely revise the SEPA, the State Environmental Policy Act checklist that was reviewed for this proposal, and renotice a public hearing. Whether I would like to, if we can, just hold the public hearing at the council level. I need to run that by legal. If not, then we could take it to back to the Planning Commission. So this will be delayed by, I would say, a month or two. Obviously, we'll keep it moving along. We're motivated to get a resolution to this topic. So if council would like to direct staff to include these two properties, we will vet out the procedure and move forward with these. This was publicly noticed to the public when this came through, so I haven't heard from anybody else that they want to be included, and we really weren't intending on asking other zones about this change. The purpose was to just do the emergency comp plan fix so that there wasn't a conflict in code. And then knowing that we're in the middle of the 20-year periodic update, we're looking at all the zones citywide anyway. So I didn't think it was appropriate to, go out of our way to ask, hey, do you want to be included? Because we're analyzing the whole city's zoning and comp plan amendments. And later in the year, we will be taking a global comp plan amendment to council. It'll be pretty fun. There's 25 different changes happening to the map right now, and I know there'll be a lot more. So that is what I have.
No, thank
for
you.
those two
And I
properties.
think, for the sake of it, sounds like we've spent a fair amount of staff time on this. And I know, like you said, they've been, trying to work through this for quite some time too. So I really appreciate, what you're trying to do. I mean, typically, we want to, do everything as it should be done. But it sounds like I appreciate your sensitivity towards the amount of time that's been invested into this already. And so it sounds like you have a pretty good path to go forward.
Yes.
Anybody else?
So it sounds like we should just hold off then on making decisions tonight then? Is that what we need to do?
That was kind of my that's probably where I'm at on it, to allow for these two pieces of property to be added to it, and like Miss Matson said, for her to check legal to see if we can just do that public hearing at the council level. I think that will be a big break of time, and just try to get this done. Just get over the finish line.
Do we need a motion, or are we just not going to take action then?
I think we're not going to take action, but we should give enough head nods or something to staff so that they know that we're all on board and don't change our minds either. Would everybody be up? Or Mr. Cotton?
Yeah, I support the decision. Yeah, let's, it sounds like the city staff is eager to get it to be part of the adaptation of this ordinance, and we can go forward with it.
Okay. Anybody else? You guys good? Okay.
Mayor, just for clarification, I did ask the property owners before the meeting, but I just want to confirm, since they're here, that they're okay with that approach. I see 2 thumbs up. Okay.
Okay.
And then just another point of clarification, I have direction on this item. I'm not sure if we need to formally open up the next item, but I would say that one should just be delayed too.
So letter A,
this one.
just table that
Yeah,
also.
they're supposed to be considered at the same time. They're one, comprehensive plan amendments are looked at collectively, so I think they should both be approved at the same meeting. I mean, in theory, and I guess legal's on the call.
That's what I was gonna say, whether
I-
we table it or
Yeah,
just let it
we could
sit.
table it and I can bring it to the final decision meeting, with this. There's, we want to get it adopted at
Thank
some
you.
point this year and soon, but I don't see the issue with delaying the item and they both have to be approved in the same meeting as far as I know, so.
Thank you. Mr. Daniel, what would be the proper procedure for dealing with holding off on these?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think you can either table it or table it to a date certain. Either way, if you table it, then you have to pull it from the table to consider it at a future meeting. If it's a date certain, you would do that on a specific date.
Okay, thank you. Would it be helpful to give a date? That way we have something set rather than just table it. I don't want to use the word indefinitely, but without a time frame.
It wouldn't be helpful because I'm not sure what date, if we're taking it,
Okay.
for timing purposes for the public hearing, I need to sort of work backwards. So I would say table it and say, address this year.
At the
Yes,
soonest
and we'll
possible.
make sure that we bring it as soon as we can.
Okay. Anybody want to make that motion, please?
I'm sorry, I was yelling at high school kids for passing term all weekend, so my voice is a little hoarse. I moved to table agenda item right here. Ordinances numbers 4819 and 4820 to a further date. And 18.
Thank you. Motion on the floor by Councilmember Perales to table letter A and B, ordinance number 4818, 4819, and 4820 to a later date as soon as possible.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Figueroa. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Let's roll on to letter C, ordinance numbers 4821 and 4822, creation of aquatic center fund and budget amendment for aquatic center staffing. And this is Mr. Hebden. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Tonight before you, we're seeking approval for 2 ordinances, 4821, which will establish a special revenue fund for the operation of the aquatic center, and creating a new chapter, 3.270 Aquatic Center Fund in the Pasco Municipal Code. Ordinance number 4822 is amending the 25-26 biennial operating budget that was established by ordinance number 4749. And so the reason for the additional fund, as you are aware, the city is working with the PPFD, the Pasco Public Facilities District, in building the aquatic center and opening that facility sometime mid-2026. And the PPFDs requested the city develop an interlocal agreement to provide management, operational, administrative, financial, and legal services for the facility. The ILA was prepared collaboratively with the PPFD and the City Legal Counsel to clearly define roles, responsibilities, cost structure, and risk protection. And so staff is seeking, in order to keep the books separate, this additional fund that we can receive the revenues from the PPFD and track all the expenditures. So that is the first ordinance, 4821. And I'll present them both and then turn it back to you for discussion or questions. The second ordinance is, as I mentioned, to amend the budget. We've worked with quite a few in our internal to the city, along with the PPFD, in developing appropriate staff levels and what's anticipated to be the budget expenditures and revenues. And at this point in time, the increase, we're seeking an additional spending authority for just over 2.5 million. I guess I should say it exactly, $2,557,900 in that amendment, or in that ordinance to amend the budget. And It's important to note that all staffing costs are planned to be funded through PPFD revenue pursuant to the ILA and maintaining general fund neutrality. So everything that we spend for the facility will be tracked separate, and there is no contributions from the city's general fund in this agreement. So again, before you, these two ordinances, and we recommend both of them to you. And at this point, happy to answer any questions or open up for discussion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hebden. Any questions from council? Councilmember Perales?
Yeah, I just got two. Mr. Hebden, so what if the sales tax revenue declines? Is there a certain backstop risk that the city has to take on?
No, that would, the PPFD is a separate entity that will need to fund itself.
Okay. And my other one was about the aquatics manager with that 25%. So, but this individual is overlooking Memorial. So I guess my question is, once things really scale up over at the aquatic center, is that person going to have enough bandwidth to oversee that and Memorial Pool?
I'm gonna let Angela answer that question. She's been heavily involved with that.
So we'll continuously look at the allocation. And with the aquatic center, there's a lot more programming that's going to be occurring there. So when we look at Memorial Pool, we'll be looking at the operational levels there as well. But the anticipation is that most of our aquatics activity is going to be at the aquatic center, whether that's swim lessons, open swim. So we will be watching that, and we will be having regular reports to look at the true ups, make sure that we are aligned with the neutrality of making sure that the city is not bearing the costs of bringing that forward. And you might see an adjustment too, where we need to move it to 80% PFD. So we'll be looking at that regularly.
Thank you much.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, Ms. Pashon, just to follow up, would you define what is an aquatics manager? Is that somebody who's just managing the swimming or the whole facility, or?
Oh, you have the whole thing, right? So you've got programming, you're ensuring that you're maintaining your lifeguards and all the risk and compliance that goes along with it. So there's a lot of pieces that go into managing a facility. So don't think just pool manager, think the entire center.
Okay.
You're running a large operation with probably 100 plus, and then all of the individuals in there. So there's a lot of components that go in there, making sure policies are being followed, we're hitting the compliance marks. So there's a lot that goes into it, not just monitoring the pool.
And thank you for that. I just wanted to make sure, because really, I think that this is important, where I know under Memorial Pool, it was just kind of, I guess, kind of a catch-all under the Parks and Recreation Department. So I'll be honest with you, I really, and for some of the concerns Councilmember Perales has previously brought up in the past, appreciate somebody dedicated to just that. That's, again, not just a catch-all of the Parks and Rec Department. And just kind of reading down here into the staff recommendation and talking points here, that it looks like this is going to technically create a 0.70 employee, but yet it looks like somebody from Parks and Rec is going to backfill that, so it remains cost neutral, if I'm understanding that correctly. It says,
Are you looking at page, let's see here,
it's
4?
under general fund cost neutrality. I'm not even sure.
So what that provides is you take one FTE and make sure that we are funding the necessary split for the city portion.
Yep.
So it's not going to take up necessarily the whole 1.5 or 1.0 FTE, but that's also providing some flexibility to ensure that if a person gets brought in a little higher than your entry level step, you have that flexibility to make sure that you still have those funds.
Okay. No, very good. Thank you. Anybody have anything else? Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt ordinance number 4821, establishing a special revenue fund for the Pasco Public Facilities District Tax Fund and creating a new chapter 3.270 Aquatic Center Fund in the Pasco Municipal Code, and further authorize publication by summary only.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Milne, seconded by Councilmember Perales. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt ordinance number 4822, amending the 2025-2026 biennial operating budget, which was ordinance number 4749, by providing supplement thereto to provide additional appropriation in the city's funds and further authorize publication by summary only.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem to adopt ordinance number 4822, amending the biennial operating budget, seconded by Councilmember Perales. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Letter D, resolution number 4709, Public Works Board, $3.5 million loan grant agreement, Lewis Street underpass demolition. This is Director Sarah. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. So we will be talking about the Lewis Street underpass demolition project and funding received to support this project. So we'll start with an overview of what the project entails. So as you may remember, during the Lewis Street overpass construction, there was an agreement with BNSF that bridge crosses BNSF railway. And there was an agreement that established the easement that was needed for that bridge to be built. And we'll see in our next slides the existing underpass, so the tunnel, remained in place, but was filled up to a certain point and then blocked so that there would not be access to it or anybody taking refuge in it and so on, or misuse of that public space within the BNSF jurisdiction. All right, so if you remember, Lewis Street underpass looked like this. These are beautiful pictures taken for historical preservation purposes. Portions of the concrete barrier were removed and transported to a place to be conserved, and then eventually they will be deployed into a park so that there is some understanding of the significance of that structure and the history associated with it. And this is what the underpass looks like right now. As you can see, the structure is still in place. Most of it is filled with dirt. There are some utilities that have been installed along that corridor, as well as some conduit for future needs related to power, fiber, and others. As I mentioned, our agreement with BNSF, that is Railroad Agency, established the need to demolish the top 6 feet of that underpass, and there was a condition that was brought up really close to the time the project was going out to bid, so it was not possible for the city to incorporate that scope within the project that was going out to bid, and that project had a lot of timelines and external funding that prevented us from delaying that bid. So that condition remains. The city has the commitment to meet the obligations with BNSF and demolish that top portion. What did not happen was not part of the overpass project. It's being done as a companion project that we are delivering separately. So since we heard of this requirement, we've been pursuing funding to support this effort. And the effort itself is mostly a coordination effort with BNSF. BNSF will have their own contractor there, removing the railroad tracks in segments, while some of the tracks remain operational. There will be others that are removed temporarily in periods of time, like 12-hour windows, and our contractor will be able to go there and work while those tracks are out of the location, and then the tracks will be reinstalled immediately after the demolition happens. So it's a complex project in the sense of coordination and time constraints for delivery. And so there's, right now, at this time, we have planned 3 segments of work, and we continue to coordinate with BNSF to make sure our contract documents are clear about how that coordination will take place. The project, as it's planned today, must cover the design cost of that project, so that preparation of bid documents, the demolition itself that our contractor will do, and the cost that BNSF will incur in order to do flagging, removal of those trucks, reinstallation, and any replacement of equipment that may be impacted through the demolition of the old tunnel. So we estimate the total project cost will be in the order of $3.5 million. Again, we continue to coordinate with BNSF to solidify what their cost will be, which likely will be governed by a similar agreement or permit like we had for the overpass. And we pursued funding through different sources, but we were successful at securing a low-interest loan from Public Works Board, and that is a state agency. This loan is a mix of loan and grant. So we'll have 50% of the 3.5 million, so 1.75 will be a loan for 20 years at 1.06%. Is the lowest interest in any public funding outside of grants. And then the other half will be forgivable in principle, which really works as a grant to us. There is no match required, and we have estimated that our repayment obligation for that half that is a loan will be in the order of $100,000 per year for the next 20 years. The fund identified to repay that cost is REIT fund. Okay, and I think I covered a lot of ground, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions from council, comments? Councilmember Perales.
You answered a couple of my questions throughout the presentation. The only one I have is, it's related, and I would like for us to get a verbal agreement of us putting together a good communication plan this time. So I would like to see that presented from the city manager's office here in the near term, because when exactly are we breaking ground on this project?
We don't have a date yet. Our target time is the late summer before harvest begins.
Okay.
We should be, based on BNSF constraints, their request to us is to be out of their trucks, which is the majority of the project, is all of it is that, before the heavy grain transport occurs. There are some constraints with that. We don't have firm costs nor concurrence from BNSF on some of the methods that we are proposing to use in our project. So the timeline is quickly approaching, and we have some constraints on how the work will happen and whether we will be able to accomplish it this year. Our goal was to get it done this year, but we need BNSF to provide answers and reviews that are more timely than what we have experienced during the overpass project. There is a different interest in this one. BNSF is much more motivated to have that underpass be removed, so we hope we can move this project faster when it comes to their reviews. And yes, absolutely, we have been talking about a communications plan. Also, this project will have a lot less visible impact because the vast majority of the work is happening within BNSF right away. There will be a truck route where debris will be hauled off, and we intend to communicate that once we have identified how many sections of work will happen, how many weeks of work we're anticipated. Heavy work will occur likely in 3 segments of probably 12 hours. We don't know if it's during the day or the night yet. All those are things we're trying to nail down before we start communicating so that we can provide out communication that is clear and as accurate as we can, ultimately generating less confusion for everybody involved. So that's our plan. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, Director Sim.
Mayor Pro Tem Milne.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to say, years ago when I first got on council, this came up. I know it was frustrating, kind of like a dark cloud, but I'm glad that you guys are getting it taken care of. Thanks for your hard work on this. It's glad to see this hopefully final piece taken care of. Very glad. Seems to be kind of the best solution overall with what can be done and the time frame that's allowed. So again, kudos to you and your staff, and I'm sure that the previous council members that I still talk to will be glad that this issue is finally solved, and both parties obviously will have a bridge and an area that they're well pleased with. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, I was just going to say, Director Sarah, thank you for finding the low interest loan. I think, it's good to call you out once in a while in front of the public about how much money you have literally saved the taxpayers of the city of Pasco with all of your grant writing and your low interest loan findings. So yeah, 1.06. Yeah, no, that kind of rung a bell up here. So no, really appreciate it. I do have a couple of questions for you though. Our dealings with Burlington Northern in the past, and I'm not trying to pick on them or anything, seems like there have been a lot of change orders where they discover things that they want done at the last second. I know you have done your due diligence, but can you speak to that issue a little bit?
Yes.
Thank you.
Happy to talk about that. It is true. There were some changes, some cost associated with BNSF. I think this project, different from the overpass, is that the overpass truly provided for benefit for the city more than BNSF. The removal of the underpass will provide more benefit to them. They're more motivated to support this project in the sense that it will eliminate a pinch point in their rail yard with opening the door for future opportunities for more tracks and just improve service through that area, which in turn it provides additional economic development for the city, the port, and the region as a whole. So there's a lot of win-wins in this. Now, on the other hand, it is true that the city does not have a way to control the request from BNSF. We just don't have the same leverage. We're not peers when it comes to our ability to request things or deny requests, because we have a contract that we've entered where in order to get an easement, we committed to performing work, and the work is broadly described, and there may be additional items that are come up as demolition begins, where BNSF identifies that something needs to be removed or replaced or was damaged by the work. And so it's not our everyday project. And we hope to control the cost as best we can. Certainly you have an advocate in me in those discussions and in my staff and the consultants we've chosen to support us. So you have that commitment, but we do not have the same level of authority.
Okay, no, I appreciate all that. It's good for the public to hear that too. And, one of the other things kind of just running around in my mind is just how much, as you brought up, how much commerce goes through these tracks and everything like that. When we had that derailment behind my store up there, and just how quick they moved in and just how much money was at stake that wasn't going, because that really is, I don't know that everybody realized it, that is the Burlington Northern Main Line that connects the coast with the inner part of the country. And so that's another thing that just I can't help but to think about, is that if there's any kind of delay or any kind of issue or whatever, it's kind of, I mean, to put it another way or use a different illustration, when rental car companies, one of their newest charges they do is they can ding people for a car out of service for a little while if, it gets damaged or whatever. Not only do they try to make you pay it back, the damage, but they're saying, hey, we couldn't use this for a month and you owe us for that too. And so I know those grain cars, as you mentioned, for one, and coal trains and all the rest could get really expensive really quick. So I don't know if that's, who knows where that could go legally. But yeah, thank you for keeping your eye on it all. Really appreciate it. Okay, we are gonna need a motion with that.
All right, let's get one done then. I move to approve resolution number 4709, authorizing the city manager to execute a $3.5 million low-interest loan grant agreement for the Lewis Street Underpass demolition project.
Second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Milne, for making that motion, seconded by Councilmember Perales. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Letter E, resolution number 4710, third amendment to RH2 Engineering Incorporated Professional Services Agreement for Irrigation System Expansion. And Director Sarah, we are right back to you, ma'am.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council members. This next item will cover changes to our consultant agreement with RH2 for the work associated with a pump station that will increase supply within our irrigation system. So this is our filtered water, not potable. We have been working for a few years now with the South Columbia Irrigation Basin, South Columbia Basin Irrigation District, in that order, skip it, to place a station, a pump station out of their tail end of their system next to the canal that exists on Broadmoor and Iris Lane, and be served by them with water that then we can pressurize and inject into our irrigation system to improve service to existing users as well as expand the service area. So the work has been ongoing for several years. There were some changes in design based on requirements through the permitting process, noise levels allowed, and so on. And so we have absorbed some of those costs within our existing contract, but now we're at the point where we are just about ready to go out to bid, and we need them to finish those plans and specifications for us, accommodate the bid support during our bid period, and then support us through the construction process, since this is a project that includes a lot of mechanical equipment, very specialized startup needs. So we're presenting to you an amendment. This is amendment number 3. It increased the allowed expenditure by RH2 Engineering by just under $540,000. It's almost doubling our existing contract. But again, this is a not to exceed contract, meaning we are giving ourselves room for their support for the next year and a half. And with that, any money that is not used will not be spent, will not be paid out. And we are presenting it for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Director Sarah. Any questions? Seeing none, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if you would make a motion.
All right. I move to approve resolution number 4710, authorizing the city manager to execute agreement number 3 for the professional services agreement with RH2 Engineering Incorporated for the design and construction services for irrigation system expansion project.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Motion on the floor for resolution number 4710, seconded by Councilmember Perales. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Number 10, unfinished business. Hat trick time back to you, Director Sarah. Letter A, updated street lighting standards.
Good evening again. I'm going to be very brief. I'm sorry. There's so many items back to back. All right. So as you may remember, in November of last year, staff brought forward an update to our lighting standards for street lighting specifically. Street lighting is governed through our PMC, and the details of how this system needs to be designed is part of our design and construction standards, which are issued by the city engineer. As it stands today, and I'll go to this slide, as it stands today, the 2022 adopted standards require every roadway design, both in capital projects, so publicly funded projects as well as privately funded projects, to have a study that identifies that the lighting proposed meets the engineering standards. So there is sufficient lighting for both vehicles, pedestrians, bicyclists, and so on in the road. The proposed update could eliminate the need for a study, because what we've done is carried forward a study that addresses the most common situations in roadways and establishes a typical spacing for those luminaires and poles to be placed, and specific about types of intersections, types of roads, width of roads, and so on. So we have created a full recommendation for those standards. Back in November, when we presented, and I'll swing by these slides, all the detail of the standards as proposed. But when we presented this in November, there were some there was a request from council to present this information to the development community and other design engineering community. We did so in early 2026. It was the last part of January. And overall, we heard support for this change because it streamlines the work that we're all doing, both on the design side and on the public side and the private side for designing out roadways, and it makes it predictable. Therefore, today I'm just sharing that feedback provided via the development community, and this is just an item. We anticipate we would be ready to adopt these new standards through an administrative process within the next week or so, provided that you all concur with that. Right. Here, I'll go to the next steps. So we've done all the steps that you see listed here since September of 2025, with the study commencing, some discussions here at the council chambers. We had also a report, city manager's office, explaining what work was happening. We showed the results of that study. We did the outreach as requested by council, and today we are presenting the feedback from that outreach, and we hope the next step is just the update of our standards to incorporate the streamlined street lighting design. All right, I'm happy to answer questions.
All right, council, questions? Councilmember Perales.
Thank you. Director Sarah, do you know why Franklin PUD pulled their so-called standard? Like, what was the reasoning behind that?
I do not know what PUD removed their maximum spacing, and that's what it was truly. It was never intended to be the typical spacing. It was just the maximum. It was related to the type of luminaires they had in their standard. There was a long-standing standard. Other things within the standard had been updated, but not the maximum spacing. Now, clearly, we've changed technologies in the luminaires, and the cone of luminance from those was narrower now. So we were experiencing some dark spots in between poles. PUD removing it was not prompted by the city. It did happen at the same time the city was asking developers to present their studies and show that the luminance requirements were being met. But it was not a coordinated effort, it just happened to be. Again, it was a maximum spacing and not so much you must follow this. Actually, their written standards at the city had to approve the spacing.
So from that 2022 standard change, the city was always requesting a light study.
Since 2022, the city should have always been requesting.
Okay.
The standard may have not been upheld as stringently as maybe should have.
Okay. And then, well, now with the new study, that's what the DKS Associates found, 180 kind of meets the IES, well, it meets the IES standard and WASDOT for guidance, essentially.
Yes, there is a 180, 160. I can go back and find that slide. It depends on how wide the road is. The typical spacing, and I have it in here somewhere. Do I? I should. Should be somewhere in here. Oh, right here. So depending on how wide the road is, what the spacing should be, and this is again in typical conditions where there is not a change in elevation that is significant, or a change in geometry where we have a sharp turn, for example. For arterials, the typical pole spacing should be 120 feet. This is from one side to the opposite side. If you're only building half a road, that is double that distance because it's anticipated that somebody will come and build across the street from you. All right, and then for collectors, it's 155, and that's because the road is narrower, so you need less lights in order to meet all your lighting. And then local streets, it's 180. So more space as the road is narrower.
Do the IES standards, are those, when they change to different, initial, I guess, lumens and stuff, is that attributed to like crime or safety, like within a city, or I guess nationwide is this a standard?
I am not positive, but I believe the basis of it are related to safety more than anything. It's just being able to observe what is happening in the road, and as we've heard, I believe we heard that during the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, like illumination is one of the key factors in safety for all road users. So that is a consideration, so that you can see who's crossing, right? That's why intersections are so critical for illumination.
Okay, and then one part of this standard I'm not fond of is it says, existing lighting within the public right of way that does not meet the standards must be upgraded at developer expense. So my question is, if our lighting is not up to standard, why aren't we maintaining that then? So why are we gonna put that on the developer?
Well, that is a concurrence issue, right? It's like as development occurs and infrastructure is either, say, for water and sewer is pretty obvious. It's like it's undersized. It cannot serve you adequately. So the level of service that new development or redevelopment needs to meet is tied to being concurrent with the standard that is in place at the time that development is permitted. And I may be stepping on. Okay, perfect. Great. Just making sure that I'm not stepping on anybody's toes. And so that's why it is the updating of something that is substandard happens at the time redevelopment occurs. It's also true that capital projects, when we address a corridor that is substandard, the capital project brings it up to standard, and that is typical as well.
Okay. Well, lastly, I just think, it makes sense to me, but at the end of the day, this is going to increase costs. Like, you look at a mile of road, it's like 18, 19 poles, and then you do this change and it turns into almost 30. So that's just really a really big cost that I think a lot of perhaps developments that were already kind of in the queue didn't account for. And so we're always going back to this grandfathering issue lately. I mean, is there a way where we can grandfather some developments that were already in development to not do this standard at this time, and then a certain date, we would have to, we can implement this so that they can, take that in their pro forma and all that stuff. So that to me, we're making so many changes, but there's developments that are taking this into account. So that would be my ask. Is that something we can do?
I would certainly, from the technical standpoint and safety standpoint, I would recommend against that. But of course, the body may decide otherwise.
I mean, that would be my recommendation. I understand the calls for safety, but then there's a lot of streets that we know that are substandard that we're not fixing. So I guess that would I don't know how many developments in the queue would be impacted, but I know only one developer has reached out to me. So, that, and that's their concern.
Yes, I think on the other hand, the other issue that we have is that since 2022, and I'll go back to here, since 2022, the standard is that a study is done. And so by grandfathering anybody before this new change that establishes that the results of a study performed privately would show similar results. Now, if we were to go before 2022, the standards are such that the required lighting layout would be approved by PUD, and PUD standard referred back to the city. So it ultimately kind of like the circles back to, is it adequate? Is it safe enough? Are we keeping up? Are we looking out for the safety of those using the road?
But you did say that when we changed the standards in 2022, we weren't really requiring a study. We were just going with the maximum.
It may have been a mistake.
Right, and so what I'm saying is, we made a mistake, or during this time now we're trying to make things right. So I guess even with that being said, I just think, maybe some of these preliminary these subdivisions who are in the queue, they can kind of go with what's currently right now prior to this change, kind of like what many things that we've talked about. Yeah, I know it goes against safety, but then again, if you look at it that way, we've done a lot of things since 2022 that are not up to that standard that we've been approving. Do you know what I mean? So, I'm not trying to call anyone out. I'm just saying, just kind of like escalating to where we want to be and help out these developers who are like, dang, I didn't know I was going to have to pay another $1 million for this. That's a lot of money, So that's my ask to the council. If you don't want to go with it, then that's fine, but, I mean, the last thing you want to be hit with anything is $2 million hit on your development. You didn't foresee that, so.
Councilmember Cotta.
Do we know how much property or real estate or miles of road would be affected by Leo's proposal of being able to grandfather some of these projects in?
I do not. And I think it would, looking at what the parameters are is, well, could it be something prior to 2022, right? Where the standard didn't specifically say you have to do a study, and it would be anybody that had a preliminary plat application completed that has not yet expired. So there's maybe a gap there of like a year and a half, maybe, of preliminary plats that were fully applied for before the standard required the study to happen.
I think it's reasonable to look into it so we can know what we're really measuring. I understand there's a safety factor involved, and so we don't want to compromise safety. But if we're not talking about, a sizable piece of real estate and it helps these contractors out, I could see a path to that, but I'd want to know more.
Right. I agree, sorry. I would just say like, we could just throw it in with the sewer connection fees, right? 2027, just give some lead time, and after that, this is the standard. So people can kind of ramp up to it. So that would be my suggestion.
So, Council, if I may,
Please,
on that
Ms.
question,
Sigdell.
this is not exact, but I'm pulling the numbers from our water rights discussion and also connection fee discussions. And right now, this is preliminary plats that are approved as of January of 2024. That's when we pull the data. There's about 26 developments and total number of units, which does not matter here per se in this discussion, is around 2,600 units. So it's going to be a pretty large number of residences that will be impacted. If we go back out to 2022, that might be different numbers, but I want to give you the scope of it.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't want to go back to 2022.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that. If they're developing right now. So, I guess if there's developments that date back to 2022 and they haven't developed yet, I wouldn't do that.
Oh, if I can just interject, Councilmember Perales. So where are you saying to draw the line in the sand when you say like actively building? Because we'd have to draw the line somewhere.
I would say in the past year. So a year from like prior. So if you're building right now, you essentially have 6 then to the end of the year. I wouldn't go back any further out. So you have to be actively building, I guess.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Milne.
Oh, thank you. I'm all for developers saving money, but as somebody that has got hit on their motorcycle, I was going way underneath the speed limit, going 20 in a 35 zone, just pulling out of my store, made it less than a block and a half, got slammed, went into the gal's windshield because she slammed to left, didn't see me. Again, it was getting dark, and so I'm all for more lighting. Maybe not saying that Lewis Street is as safe as I would like it to be, but if there would have been better lighting, maybe she would have seen me. Maybe I wouldn't be not walking for 4 months, 5 busted ribs, 2 brain bleeds, and my arm is now held together with titanium. So, again, had I been going the speed limit, I'd be dead. Not had a helmet, dead. Hurt in a truck, I'd be dead. So, I always believe in more lighting to protect people because I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just trying to go straight, and she didn't see me. Whether she was on her phone, I don't know, but I'm all saying more lights. I would love to see more lights in the city of Pasco. So anything we could do to make it safer. We're trying to put all these bike lanes in. I know the reasoning behind that. But maybe one of these days people actually use those. And then there's a run of them getting hit too. And again, so just throwing that out there that I'm all for lights. I do want developers to save money. But on the other hand, how much is it you're risking a life of one person or 2 people because they saved on a couple $100,000 and now some person disabled because they can't see people that are riding a vehicle at nighttime. So I'm all for lights. Just throwing that out there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Director Sarah, I did want to say, first of all, thank you for working with developers and putting them out. This is one of the things that sometimes I don't want to say finger pointing or whatever, but the public and developers are looking to us to, actively engage developers, actively engage stakeholders. So thank you so much for doing that. In your time and interacting with them, is that one of the things that they ever brought up to you as far as, projects in the queue? And it sounds like at least one reached out to Councilmember Perales. Is that something they brought up to you during their discussion or feedback?
No, during the session we had, most of the comments were in support or asking about how the implementation was going to go. There was overwhelming support because currently they're required to do a study. And so this really eliminates that cost and that timeline, the review timeline, and so on. So there was, generally speaking, all support or questions about implementation. There was not a single statement about opposition to the proposal.
Okay.
Or a request for waiver. I believe the comments about waivers, I believe happened during an open council meeting. And I can't remember if it was from the development community or just sharing that concern from the council to staff as a pass-through from what had been heard from the development community.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to say again, I appreciate the work that's been put on this. And I know it's also Ms. Matson's department. And this is one of those things you guys probably come together on quite a bit, and I know the development community appreciates the streamlining and the predictability. And also, just the feedback that I've heard, they've always thought of the lighting studies, one of the most ridiculous things, that they have to do, especially project after project. So I really appreciate the consistency in that. So with that said, council, do you, this is an item, do we want to have more discussion? Do we want to look at, grandfathering in, or are you guys happy with, oh, sorry, Councilman Cotta. My thing's not working, so I got to
That's okay.
manually look for lights, sorry.
No, I was just going to make the comment that it does sound like a lot of development, which makes it a bigger safety issue. Some of the grandfathering we've done with other clauses or other issues, it hasn't involved a safety issue like this one. And so I think that's a different deal. So I'd be less in favor of grandfathering in contractors into something where they wouldn't have to, abide by the ordinance just because they've started a project. But I'm willing to listen.
Okay, thank you, Councilman.
If you don't mind. Also,
sorry.
There are competing interests here. I mean, we just had a presentation last week or the week before where we're trying to, reduce the number of deaths by half. And I know that they'd be saying, let's have the lights. And so there's another issue here is in regard to our own scope of issues that we're trying to contend with and in our own interest that I think if we back off the lights, that could be an issue.
Thank you so much for your comments. Councilmember Figueroa?
I think I'd be in favor of moving forward and approving this and not grandfathering. I believe that enough outreach was done and they'd had their chance to express their concerns if that was a need, and it seems that staff took whatever feedback was provided, some of the outreaches, and they included and implemented into what we have here in front of us. And so going back to public safety, I think that that's really important to, I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure that we all share kind of the same collective feeling of public safety. And to me, one life is one life too many if we can do whatever we can. So I would be in favor of moving this along and being done with it.
Thank you, Councilmember Hernandez.
I'm in favor of going forward with it as well. So,
okay, thank you. No, I appreciate that, and I guess I just put a maraschino cherry on top of it or whatever. I mean, I really appreciate what Councilmember Perales is bringing up. On the other hand, I feel we have, made a lot of concessions to the development community. I think we have listened really well in many cases, development community, and incorporated their thoughts and that kind of stuff. But yes, for the interest of safety and some of the other issues going forward, I would be happy to bring it back as is also. I think this is a big enough win to where we can go forward.
Thank you. With that direction, the adoption of the standards will be administrative, so we will be able to issue those changes and post them similarly to what we've done with other standard changes in the recent past that were minimal or related to the payment impact fees, I believe. So we'll move forward with that. Thank you for your feedback.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, that was a great discussion. Number 11, new business, letter A, Housing Authority of the City of Pasco and Franklin County Board of Commissioners, appoint position number 5, and we're going to our Madam Clerk for this one. Good evening again to you.
Yes, good evening, Council. The Housing Authority of the City of Pasco and Franklin County is an independent municipal corporation governed by its own Board of Commissioners. The commissioners for position 1 and 3 are selected by the governing body of Franklin County, and the commissioners for positions 2, 4, and 5 are selected by the majority of Pasco City Council. At this time, position number 5 on the board is vacant. The council may remember that previously you had reappointed Ms. Linda Duclos to this position in November of 2025, but unfortunately Ms. Duclos has passed away. To fill this vacancy, the council's board and commission subcommittee, made up of Mayor Grimm, council members Perales and Cotta, met on February 24th, 2026, and conducted interviews with 2 applicants, Amanda Brown and Mac Funk. A third applicant had applied but later withdrew from consideration. Following the interviews, the subcommittee is recommending that City Council confirm the appointment of Mac Funk to position number 5 on the Housing Authority Board.
Okay, thank you.
I would just like to hear from those that were in the interview committee as to why they chose to go with the selected applicant and kind of draw some questions off of that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Councilmember Cotta, yeah.
Wish I had my notes with me, but there was a lot of experience involved on Mac's part. He had experience as a landlord. He had qualifications regarding managing some Section 8 clients as well. He has had a lot of experience in property management. He worked here at the port, and he's been kind of overseeing ports in his journey throughout his career. And so he had experience managing properties and in buildings.
Thank you. Councilmember Perales?
I'll just leave it to Mr. Cotta. I think he hit the nail on the head, so I got nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you. And I guess those were some of my takeaways too, being on that that commission also. And I tell you what, we're not taking away from anything from Miss Brown here or whatever. That lady has a heart to serve and to love people, and that's what I really took from her interview, is her wanting to help people, to love people, and to serve people. It was just kind of my take, as far as just the board and just the experience that that Mac brought, having managed Section 8 housing, and this just seemed to be, he had the most relevant experience, is kind of where it came down to for me.
Okay. My only concern, as I'm looking is just the length of residency, right? Mr. Funk to just have 1 year within Pasco, and then 12 years previously, 30 years ago, and we all know that Pasco has really changed in the last 30 years, and so I don't know what Mr. Funk might recall of Pasco. So whatever this experience of Section 8, I don't know how recent it must be or to this. So that would be just my only concern versus Ms. Brown, in the sense that she has been residing here in the city for about 9 years and kind of in touch with the later developments of what's going on. But then again, we can kind of see what would be best. I mean, for me, it's important as the representative District 1, it hits one of those districts that a lot of affordable housing in the Section 8. So to make sure that we have a person who is in the best interest of the city, but also this is an important part of my district that represents. So I want to make sure that we get the best qualified individual for this. So that's why I wanted to bring it up and have these conversations.
Thank you. And, Mr. Figueroa, on that note too, one of the things I kind of learned from this, kind of being on council for a couple of years, but actually facilitating this for the first time, was how helpful and how important would it have been, since you're a representative on that board, to be part of that subcommittee. And I don't know if that's something, we can follow up with legal or something like that in the future, but I know we got broke off as the subcommittee to, have these, but I think it would be really valuable for the person appointed to the board to be on that subcommittee. So I do want to follow up with legal, and I imagine there's not a problem with it, but do our due diligence to make sure that's okay. But yeah, in the future, who's ever sitting on that board, or that the council's appointed to that board, should be on that subcommittee to help decide that position. And so, yeah, that was definitely something to be learned from this for me, I can tell you.
Over here, Charles.
Oh, sorry, Councilman Cotta.
No, just those are good comments, Mark, Congressman Figueroa. Sorry, I do that a lot.
They need,
council
they
member,
need
yeah, there you go.
someone.
I messed it up anyway. Excuse me, I'm not as formal as I need to be. Mac's sister, yeah, he didn't live here recently for quite a while. You mentioned 30 years, but the properties that he's managed are here. He has family here. He's no stranger to the area. He's been back and forth here quite frequently. Just FYI.
Awesome, thank you for sharing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to appoint Act Funk to the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners under position number 5, effective March 2nd, 2026 through January 27th, 2031.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Milne, seconded by Councilmember Perales to appoint Mac Funk to the Housing Authority of the City of Pasco and Franklin County. All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? 5 yeas, 1 nay. Moving on, letter B, understanding traffic calming, purpose and approaches. Director Sarah, you're back.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council members. This presentation is an informational presentation. I'll try to be brief, much briefer than last week's informational presentation, if at all possible. I hope you feel comfortable asking questions as we go through, and we'll just cover traffic calming as a strategy or a set of strategies that we can use in the city to improve safety for all road users. All right, so traffic calming is, in fact, a set of planning and engineering measures that can be applied, again, in consideration of the roadway users that include pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicles. And those traffic calming measures are best applied on residential areas, so local streets and neighborhood collectors. The main arterials or main corridors that are intended to carry the most volume of traffic are not great candidates for traffic calming, just so that the flow of traffic can continue to move things from one place to the other, people and goods. All right, similar colors to the previous presentation. Some of those strategies can be a combination of measures. Those come, and we'll go through many of these examples, but you have vertical deflection, right, when you're going up and down in the road, maybe speed humps or raised crosswalks or any other thing that kind of moves in the vertical alignment of the road. Horizontal deflection, which is where you're creating a path that is not straight, so discourages speeding. It makes you more aware of your surroundings. You're slowing down, you're looking around, you're paying attention, you're engaged. And then visual and regulatory measures, and the typical example for that is speed feedback signs, when it tells you how fast you're going as you're approaching a certain area. So those are all different types. And we have some of the information is in the slides, so I'm not trying to not read, just carry you through the content. I think the agenda report, so the staff report in the packet tonight had a lot more detail about each of these things, but we'll go through some images that shows us how those can be implemented. All right, so speed zones are areas, and we're using some of the DOT standardized information because they have great examples. Speed zones allow for low speed areas that are specifically designated. The typical case for this is near schools or areas that have a playground nearby, so that drivers slow down and pedestrians and bicyclists, users of that road, have a safer opportunity to cross or be near that road without feeling kind of like the fear of the high speed happening. Roadway reconfiguration is another strategy that is typically used where roads that had just a number of lanes get constrained into lesser number of lanes, narrower lanes, and adding the divided facilities for other road users that are not motorized. As we talk horizontal deflections in our slide, just a few slides before, concise examples of that are either islands for pedestrians that really constrain that center turn lane, chicanes, which are kind of like, or bulb outs, right? Things that protrude from the sides of the road, narrowing that lane and making it at least visibly encouraging to the driver to slow down and pay attention and go slower so that they can actually navigate the path. As we said, medians, neighborhood traffic circles, and those work best when it's along a corridor and you have several. So you are kind of deviating from a straight path. Vertical deflection, we talked about raised intersections or raised crosswalks, which could be middle of the mid-block crosswalks. Speed humps or speed cushions, or speed tables, which are a longer version of those speed humps. And we have examples here shown. And that is a good overview of measures that can be applied. Now, how do we decide where those can be applied and what meets the needs, and how do we prioritize? There's lots of needs and typically not enough resources for everything, which is the story of every agency and every need. So some of the considerations are related to understanding the speed and understanding which corridors or specific locations have a documented speed that is consistently beyond what is signed. And so we're seeing some of that information from City of Pasco actually done as part of a study. We have some corridors that are highlighted in red, and those show where the majority of that consistent higher speed than sign is occurring. Another item that we look at is crashes. And so crashes, and these are slides that should look somewhat familiar. They are from the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan that you saw presented last week. So we're looking at fatal and serious injury or suspected serious injury crashes in two different colors in the screen. And those are a little bit sprinkled across the city, with some corridors having higher numbers of that. And then if you look at this next slide, actually identifying corridors that have consistent crash history. And those are all data-driven tools to prioritize the work and the allocation of funds to implement traffic calming. And again, some of these corridors that are highlighted are arterial, so those are not good candidates for traffic calming. Instead, some of those would use a different methodology of enforcement. Maybe is presence of our police department there. We have traffic signal enforcement in specific corridors, right? And so there's different ways of managing the safety of those corridors. If they're arterials or collectors, again, local streets and neighborhood collectors are better treated with these passive measures where we are doing changes in the geometry of the road to discourage speeding, cut through, racing, and so on. All right. What else do we need to look at when we are considering traffic calming measures? Well, the context of those corridors. And so what we are seeing in the screen now are all the corridors that have a designation, a functional classification through DOT that identifies our arterials and collectors, and then all the roads showing gray, and the light gray are local streets that are not expected to have a function to carry the vast majority of our traffic. Instead, they are just access to neighborhoods. So that's a context that we take into consideration when deciding application of traffic calming measures. Traffic calming measures applied in principal arterials, for example, tend to cause rear end crashes or just generate congestion. And so then that encourages cut through. So the traffic that should have been in your arterial road is actually taken in residential road to get from one place to the other to avoid the congestion. So we try to discourage that. All right. Along with that, some regional work done by BFCOG identifies the level of stress for non-motorized transportation, so that's pedestrians and bicyclists again, utilizing our roads, and you are seeing in red those that have the most friction for those other uses that are not vehicular or motorized, and then green would be the least friction in those. All right. And finally, we look at school zones and routes to school to identify which corridors are being utilized by children, some of them unsupervised, to get from their houses to school. And those are also part of the consideration for prioritization. All right, so some of the examples of traffic calming performed at City of Pasco include both capital projects, investments, as well as operational maintenance investments. So from the capital side, we are looking at pictures of before and after of Sylvester Street, where there was a road reconfiguration, one of those strategies we saw at the very beginning of the presentation, where we took the existing roadway surface that had 2 lanes in each direction and a center turn lane, and allowed for infrastructure that is dedicated for bicycles. In this case, on the eastern part of Sylvester Street, there were sidewalks already available, so those were not needed to be modified, and the lanes were constrained to being a little bit narrower than before, which again discourages speeding. Similarly, on the west side of Sylvester Street, improvements were done, and those included a series of strategies, including sidewalk construction, a multi-use path that is off the road, so it's separated from the road behind curb and gutter, and crossings, such as the one that we're seeing on the after picture, and there is a pedestrian crossing, and that's one of those strategies, that median or center island for pedestrians to have a refuge when they're crossing from one place to the other. And then again, it's giving that visual constraint of that lane that encourages drivers to slow down. This project also was accompanied by a change in speed. The speed was reduced by 5 miles per hour along the corridor. This corridor had funding through federal and state grants, which almost fully funded the project. And it had also a history of serious crashes as well. All right. A different type of application, this is Route 96, where during our analysis of speed across the city as part of a grant received by the city, this was a different federal grant the city received to do an analysis of speeding and how that speed was impacting crashes. So it was a injury minimization analysis, really that's what it was called. It was identified that Route 96, consistent with some of the complaints we had heard from residents in the area, had consistent speeding occurring throughout the day after day. There were about 15, the medium speed happening was about 15 miles per hour higher than the posted speed. And so this was a good candidate, somewhat good candidate, for speed humps. And they're not humps, they're cushions, which are removable, and they are specifically spaced so that emergency vehicles can go without going up and down on those. They have some gaps, but the gap is not adequate for vehicles to go straddle them, so to speak. So this is an example of before and after. Those were added. We did have some issues with compliance even after we installed the speed cushions in this area, because as you can see in the picture, maybe you can see it, there's not consistent curb and gutter in it, and so drivers were actually swerving out into the gravel to avoid those cushions, which ultimately also results in a dangerous situation. So we try to cone that area and have enforcement there and try to alleviate that. There was a lot of cut through happening here to avoid Road 100. And so some of these measures have given some level of relief to this neighborhood, maybe not as much as if had been full infrastructure built there to prevent that speeding and the swerving occurring. All right, so those are two different types of applications, somewhat recent, within the different mechanisms we have available to implement this. All right, so as we've been telling, and this is a quick summary of everything that was written in your packet, traffic calming starts with both on the planning level, just hearing out where the complaints are, and as part of our transportation improvement plan, where do we place that, how do we prioritize it, which projects are brought to the top of that list, our capital improvement plan, where we identify when delivery can occur based on resources and funding available, and of course the long-range plans like master plans and so on that feed those other two plans. We look at data. We have the comprehensive safety action plan now. We used to have a roadway safety plan available to us, now has been superseded by the CSAP you approved today. And we look at that hard analysis of data and the context that we talked about through all those slides that we went through, and we set the vision that desire to have lesser crashes, maybe eliminate crashes, the vision 0, the target 0 efforts here in the state of Washington. To support those initiatives, there are grants available to the city, and the city has successfully pursued and secured some of those. Those are listed in the screen. You have federal and state grants. For example, the Highway Safety Improvement Program, that's a HSIP for the people in the transportation world, Safe Streets for All, which funded our CSAP effort and will hopefully fund the implementation of some of those projects that are in that plan, pet bikes, Safe Route to School, and so on. There's lots of grants available, and the city consistently pursues those and has been quite successful actually receiving funds for those. All right. And then, of course, where is council's involvement and all the power council has to devote resources and attention to this effort? So, well, there's lots of opportunity. The first that comes to mind is here the planning effort. When we're doing TIP, when we're doing CIP, you set the priority. We propose something as staff from our staff perspective, from the information we have. We're happy to provide you that criteria. And of course, you set the tone for what you want to prioritize. Through the budget setting process, that's another opportunity to really allocate local funds through either the operation and maintenance budget or the capital budget to prioritize efforts that support traffic calming. And one example is our last TIP, adopted last year, does include a program for neighborhood traffic calming, but based on budget constraints, and let's remember this is all funded through the Streets Fund, which is a declining revenue fund, there were just not enough dollars available to support a program. So we have been supporting efforts through the recent activities you've seen and some others that we haven't mentioned today, by the allocating funds from, or reallocating would be proper explanation, from some of our regular activities to prioritize traffic calming as requested by council. So we are trying to balance the needs without increasing our budgets as adopted. So again, as we're setting budgets for the next biennium, traffic calming may come top of mind, and you get to decide how much funds from local sources. We'll get to tell you how much we have pursued and received, where we were not successful, and so on, so that you can have an informed decision of how much more money is needed, because the needs, again, continue to exceed what we can afford, and we are forced to prioritize and decide on how can we prioritize in a way that is equitable across the city. Whoop! Something happened. I'm sorry. That was really loud. All right. So more involvement from council also occurs through the Complete Streets policy and its associated upholding of those standards and those all road users being accounted for in our development standards, in our own projects as we're delivering it, our publicly funded projects. And again, that is a policy. Council has passed an ordinance on complete streets, and traffic calming goes hand in hand with that, because those improvements that are built can only be used if people feel safe to use them without feeling at risk. And finally, speed limit setting happens via ordinance, and If you all remember, during 2025, there was a policy that was set for lowering speeds that does not require engineering study. Anything bringing up the speed requires a study, and setting the speed limit down is somewhat constrained based on state law, but it is available, and the city of Pasco has that policy available to the governing body, so that is a great place. And again, anytime we change the speed, sometimes when we annex roads, the speed needs to be revisited. There is a study typically that is required for that if it's an arterial or even if it's a change in speed that doesn't bring it down to 25 miles per hour. Then that is brought to you from the staff perspective with the documentation that is required to support it, and you get to act on it via ordinance. And then it gets included into the PMC for enforcement as well. All right, so that is an overview of the opportunities for council to support, encourage, and prioritize traffic calming. And again, we're not talking about any one specific project tonight. I'm happy to answer questions, but we have some upcoming presentations that relate to specific locations. This was just an overview of how traffic calming is available to us and what are the parameters we use to evaluate things and prioritize.
Thank you, Director Sarah, for your presentation. No, it's a good refresher for us, and I appreciate you introducing it to our newer council members too. I'm sure we'll have a fair amount of discussion for you, and we'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Milne. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'll kind of wait till I know District 5, we've talked about on Court Street, the racing that goes from the bridge of 182 and, past Road 100, the interchange there. I know Pasco PD can't be there out there all the time. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous just because it happens occasionally, but there's some super high speeds. So my question is, you have the signs, the radar signs, and then you have like speed bumps. Which do you have a price range of how much like a speed bump would cost versus a radar sign? So say like people do see the radar signs. I believe the neighbors see it, but again, other people, they don't care because they're racing. So what would be the cost difference, and again, not spending a fortune in that section of the road, what really would be a safe way, but I think you know where I'm going with this. What do you think would be just the best option to have? Like, I to advocate maybe the speed bumps, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, without seeing the whole report.
Yes. So specifically to the Court Street corridor, we do have data that has been collected, and our traffic engineer, actually the traffic engineer that provided the second opinion on that corridor, is evaluating that data, and we have an item scheduled for, I believe, 2 weeks from today. So there was a recommendation of doing passive measures first and collecting data, and then identifying the effectiveness of those passive measures and determining if active measures such as that speed cushions were recommended at that time. That process is underway, and we expect to see a report from the traffic engineer in the coming days. As far as cost, it is somewhat comparable. Maintenance-wise, speed cushions require different level of maintenance, especially as winter weather occurs, and they may need to be removed and patched with like cold patch, right? So that that area can be plowed and then reinstalled, where the feedback signs are just installed once, and we do ensure that the power is still getting to them, or if they're running on batteries, we are doing battery replacements. We try to avoid battery operated equipment here in the winter. They don't work as well because of so many days of not shining sun on them. So those sunlight powered equipment, really solar, stops functioning after so many days of no light, and then the batteries burn through it, so it's a little bit harder. So we typically have them hardwired, which are ultimately less maintenance cost, but initial installation, I believe, is somewhat comparable. I will confirm that with our operations team.
Okay, thank you. I'll wait for the report.
Thank you. I'll chime in on that same area. I mean, that's obviously been a huge topic of discussion over the last couple of years. And so I pulled up, I guess the feedback I have heard from the residents there is, I mean, yeah, the average speed doesn't raise too many red flags, but just incredible. The outliers there, you know, are just really, really fast. And I guess my proposal for council and everybody, if we were to ever make any type of exception, it would be in that strip of road, just because it's what contains the Sacagawea Heritage Trail. I mean, the whole rest of that 26-mile trail is protected, you know, or down at the river or anything like that, you know, and here just our little section in West Pasco, it pops up to the road through no fault of our own, but you know, we were just talking about safety and everything else with the lights. I think this goes right along that if we were to ever, you know, make some kind of exception, that would be where I would want to see it too. You know, of course, Maria, you know, Director Sarah, my temptation's always to go farmer style, where I'm thinking those neighbors down there that have filled this council chamber before would, you know, pitch in on a dump truck load of asphalt to go down there and, you know, just make 3 permanent speed cushions down there. And I'm not joking too much here, whatever. You know, and the reason I bring that up is I was just looking at 27th Avenue in Kennewick, because I do think that is a fairly reasonable comparison here, kind of where it comes off of the 395, cuts back by the middle school and all those schools. They have, and I just have it right here on my map, they have 3 permanent speed cushions that, and I've driven over them, and probably most of you have at some point too, that are 4 or 5 feet wide that go sidewalk to sidewalk. There's no cutting around them like we do on 96th Avenue. Again, think shovels, dump truck load, farmer style. There are 3 speed cushions all the way down. Obviously, you guys would never, you know, let us get away with that. Yeah, I see the look of fear there, but how can we make an exception? How can we get this done? Because that really is a dangerous spot, and is the more gets developed there at Road 108 and the rest, I mean, that is really a thoroughfare a lot of people are using, and even on these bright sunny days we've had so far, the activity has picked back up so much. So, I mean, that would be my proposal for council. If we were to ever make an exception, because of the Sacagawea Heritage Park Trail there and just some of the other things there, I would love to see us put sidewalk to sidewalk, 3 nice speed cushions across there, if that's, you know, what fits the area, and go from there. And it's not like, I do want to caveat that and say it's not like the city has done anything. I mean, we've got the speed cameras out there. We've lowered the speed to 25. So this is something we're actively trying to fix already. And I think the city's done good at that. But I think there's still just opportunities to do that. And so I just wanted to throw that out there.
Amen.
Okay. Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, no, I was going to save a lot of my stuff for offline, but no, I think we need to look into speed humps, speed cushions. I mean, you know, over in Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Milne's district over on Bellflower. I mean, these are things we've been hitting on for a while, and I'll just say, you know, we should be looking into these things. I know over in Kennewick right now, they're building new subdivisions with speed humps, with mini roundabouts, and so I think that's what we need to be looking into. It just makes our streets safer, especially these long corridors. I'd be in favor of, getting a dump truck of asphalt and going out there and patting it down myself. I mean, we need to do this stuff. And that's why I like the PBS second opinion from the study that was done a while ago on Court Street, because it seemed like he had a little bit more common sense, real world application and his experience. But I mean, it's dangerous out there. I mean, that's why I said I wanted to take it more offline, because we can talk about this for a long time. But like, look into the street racing. I know in Seattle they increased their penalties for street racing. Just things like that. We need to really tackle this, especially if we're going to reduce our fatalities by 50%. I mean, these are the things that we really need to kind of go after. So yeah, I mean, I think council involvement is going to be very strategic going forward as we continue to grow. So I look forward to these discussions.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess I just want to finish it off by saying, you know, I just look at the whole title of this, traffic calming, you know, measures that we have to do. And part of this, you know, is just, you know, I think reflective of living in a Genesis 3 world where people don't respect each other. They don't respect government. They don't respect the law, you know. And I think we're just seeing the results of that. So it forces us to, maybe take away other people's freedom to, put in speed cushions and speed pillows and those kind of things. And that's very frustrating for me that, in a sense, everybody's kind of get punished because we do have these few who are just completely reckless, completely take advantage of everything. And I think it forces our hand to do something, but I find it very frustrating. Anybody have anything else? Councilman Figueroa?
Did you have something to say? I just want to say thank you for the presentation, and I think that the title, I wouldn't necessarily call it punishment, Mr. Mayor, but as the name calls it, traffic calming, it calms the drivers a little bit more than what usual. But thank you for all the graphics and this data-driven graphics that we have here. It's really helpful to understand kind of organic ways as we can to kind of slow down drivers. So I do appreciate some that I'm very familiar that I did understand at the point why they were going, but now I do understand the context, and so I can share with a lot of the residents and constituents. So thank you for putting it all together and share the same sentiments.
Okay, appreciate it. Seeing nothing else, let's move on. Does anybody need a break? Are you guys good? Want to keep going? Keep going. Okay, well, you good? Okay, just want to make sure here. We are going to move to number 12, executive session, discussion with legal counsel about current or potential litigation per RCW 42.30.110, paragraph 1, section I. This listed for 10 minutes. Is that good, Mr. City Manager? He is good. Okay, so we are adjourned for executive session. Be back in 10 minutes. All right, the time is now 9:21. We are back from executive session where no decisions have been made. Let's see if I just had to change my code tonight. You remember which kid's birthday it is now. IT probably won't like to hear that, but that's life. Okay, so we are gonna doing the best we can up here, right? So we are going to move on to 13A. This is a procedural discussion regarding upcoming appeal. And Ms. Sigdell just walked right back in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to hand this off to our city attorney, Mr. Kenny.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much, Daniel Kenny, City Attorney. We're here to talk very briefly about an upcoming appeal that will be coming before council as a quasi-judicial matter. It's for the Madison Park Final Plat Appeal. It is currently scheduled for 5:30 p.m. on April 20th, prior to your workshop that evening. And so we have a block of time set aside specifically for this appeal. I will be representing the city council in this matter, and staff is represented by another attorney, and then the appellant has their representation. And so, reminder, this is a quasi-judicial, and so all deliberation should be had at that time. We will not be deliberating on any substance of the appeal right now. This is merely to discuss a few preliminary procedural matters. The first of the procedural matters is to have a decision from council on the record for the appeal. Traditionally, the staff team will prepare the record and produce that to council and to the appellant. And so my recommendation is that that occur within 7 days of this evening so that the parties have time to use the record and to prepare. They, of course, have those documents, but will establish the record on appeal. It is a closed record appeal to council, and so that needs to be set in stone. Further, there's been some indication that there may be a request for records that may exceed that, TBD at this moment. And so my recommendation is that 7 days following receipt of the record, that either the city team or the appellant have the opportunity to make a request to council to include additional records into the record on appeal, and that be done through a written request that would outline both the documents that are requested to be added to the record on appeal, along with an explanation of why that document should be included in the appeal. My recommendation would be further to limit the length of that request. I think that I'll defer to council on what that length would be. I think 3 to 5 pages would be appropriate to identify the records and to briefly explain why that should be included. If a request is then made, I will review that with council, and we will gather again to provide a recommendation or a response back to the parties on whether additional records will be added. And that will be done in a timely manner following the request, so that the parties have the benefit of knowing whether that would be included. And so I'll start with that first set. So again, I'll just summarize. My recommendation is that the record on appeal be produced by the city team within 7 days of tonight. Any request for records to be added to that be made within 7 days of receipt of the record, and that include a written explanation of what documents are being requested and the reason for that request, not to exceed 5 pages. Does council have any comments or questions on my recommendation?
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Just procedural, is this something we need to actually make a motion for, or do we just agree in some kind of concurrence on?
I would appreciate a motion, and it could just be motion to accept the recommendation of the attorney, and just keep it that simple.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Kennedy or discussion? Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the recommendations of our city attorney and go with what he's recommending.
Second?
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Milne to accept the recommendations from the attorney as far as Mr. Kennedy, as far as format goes, seconded by Mr. Hernandez. Discussion?
Do we have the amount of limit for the pages, or just not to exceed the 5?
I think that's going to be in the second part of this, if I'm understanding correctly, Mr. Kennedy.
I had included that in my recommendation of not to exceed 5 pages.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, I missed that in the, yes, exactly. Okay, perfect. Good clarification. So not to exceed 5 pages. Okay. Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Milne, seconded by Councilmember Hernandez. No more discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And the second item for procedure to get your input on tonight, council, would be the procedures for the appeal itself. The recommendation would be to ask staff to give a brief presentation on the appeal, only to set the framework for where it's coming from and what it includes, not argument by the city team. And so again, it would be a brief presentation of the matter. Appellant would have their argument and city staff team would have their argument. The appellant, obviously, the basis for their appeal, the city team, the basis for supporting the decision that was made. And each of those, my recommendation would be 15 minutes in duration, so that both sides can prepare and anticipate, or no more than 15 minutes in presentation. Following those two, council would deliberate and make a decision. And again, we have allotted an hour and a half. There's potential for discussion about the record in advance, potentially the brief presentation, the two arguments, and then deliberations. And so to recap, my recommendation is that both the appellant and the city team be instructed to prepare no more than 15 minutes of arguments on their positions, and that will be the sequence for the appeal.
Okay, questions for Mr. Kennedy? Anybody? Further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
All right, I make a motion that we also go with the recommendation of Mr. Kenny as far as 15 minutes in the appeal. And I don't know what else.
The procedure laid out by Mr. Kenny.
Yes.
For the, yes.
Yes.
Okay, for the appeal. Okay. Motion on the floor by Mr. Mayor Pro Tem to accept the recommendations of Mr. Kenny for the procedure of the appeal as far as the initiation of it and the 15 minutes back and forth, et cetera.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Cotta. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Anything further, Mr. Kenny?
That is all I had. I appreciate it and look forward to working with you on this appeal.
Okay, thank you, sir. Moving on, number 14, miscellaneous discussion. Mr. Stewart.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First and foremost, I'd be happy to entertain any questions with regards to the city manager report that's included in the packet this evening. Not hearing any, just real briefly, I wanted to inform the public and the council that we have 2 Community Business Watch District 2 meetings coming up this month. Those will both be held in the Police Department Community Room. First one will be on March 19th at 6 p.m. And the second one will be March 24th from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And again, encourage the public, particularly from District 2, to come out and interact with our police department and hear some of the information the police department has to provide for their district. And without any further questions, I have nothing else this evening.
Thank you. Anybody have anything else? Anything for the good of the people of Pasco? Seeing none, we will move on to number 15. My time is showing 9:30 and we are adjourned.